we did want to catch back up, man, on some of these Steelers combine meetings, man, because we talked about it, man. Combine meetings, pro day appearances. If you get them on both lists in terms of the Steelers with these players, then usually that's giving you a good indicator that these players are seriously on the Steelers watch list. So with that, in terms of the offensive lineman that the Steelers met with at the combine, go down the list. Andrew Voorhees out of USC, Dalton Wagner out of Arkansas, Carter Warren out of Pitt, Tyler Steen out of Bama, Joe Tippmann out of Wisconsin, Peter Skoronski, Northwestern, Waya Morris out of Oklahoma, Jordan McFadden out of Clemson, Olu, I'm going to butcher it, Olu Watimi out of Michigan. They met with him as well. Brett Lang out of Minnesota, Duluth. Ricky Stromberg out of Arkansas. Heard this name before. Broderick Jones, Georgia. Paris Johnson out of Ohio State. They also met with Henry Benavalu out of Washington, TJ Bass from Oregon, Ryan Hayes out of Michigan, another name we're familiar with, Anton Harrison, Oklahoma, Jake Andrews out of Troy, Nick Broker out of Ole Miss, John Ojukwu out of Boise State, and Blake Freeland out of BYU, or the players that they had met with. So with that, man, good mix though in terms of guards and tackles, obviously. Some of the guys that stood out though was it was good to see that they did meet with the big guys that we've been talking about, man, where there's Skoronski, Johnson, Broderick, and Anton. We know that one of them dudes out the mix is going to be in play for us at 17 or 32. So it's first off good to know that we're on those dudes' radars. But going back and looking at some of the other players that they had talked to, some guys that stood out to me a little bit, man, just as potential options, man, or just interesting pieces, whether we're talking about bringing them in early to potentially push Dotson about, or if you're looking for something mid-tier or late round to kind of come in here and back up, not Dotson, to back up Dan Moore, excuse me on that one. But we obviously have some guards too. I don't think we're going to still be rocking with guards based on the signings that we've made, but we could talk about them if y'all want to. But first one that had came up though, man, was Blake Freeland, left tackle out of BYU. Plays some right, man, but he's mainly a left. I thought he had really good size, athleticism in terms of time of the snap count, all that type of stuff. Thought he bend and he would drop his levels pretty well in the run game. The thing that kind of stands out though is in the pass sets, he's one of those guys that does give up the inside rush. Because of him being so athletic, he's one of those dudes, he jumping out there. He trying to take away your speed, get up on you quick. And that is why he does get beat a good amount in terms of the oversets. Can play a little bit higher at times. And I think just in terms of his redirection, doesn't do that the best. But he's one of those guys that potentially you bring in here to, I think you compete with Dan Moore, but I ultimately think Dan Moore still would beat him out. Right. But I did like what I was seeing, some of the stuff in terms of just like what he was doing at the Senior Bowl as well, man. To just, like I said, man, breed another body, because right now when we're talking about our roster at left tackle and even right tackle, we don't really have any depth right now, you know? So, had me looking at them type of dudes, man.
Yeah, maybe he's a guy you like if you want to pass on your first few picks on offensive lineman or offensive tackle. He's a guy you take. Some have him going second.
Second, yeah.
Potentially third. Third would probably be the best.
If you get
value.
him in third, you love it. Like I think you would love him in the third, but he's got that second, third round type thing on him. The other dude that I really liked, left tackle as well, was it Jalen Duncan out of Maryland. I like him a lot, man. I think he has excellent size and athleticism. You watch his footwork, though, man. Like his feet, constant movement, really good base, strong hands when you talk about how he plays. Really strong puncher, too. I think he handles the speed rush well. I love how hard he plays, though. That's the other thing, man. When you watch his effort, he's one of those guys, he's trying to finish you over the pile. He's trying to run downfield, get a block and stuff like that. Pad level in the run game was good, too, especially with him being a little bit taller. The thing that was a little bit interesting when I watched him, though, you would think with his size and the strength that he plays with that he would do a lot better versus bull rush. But that was something that I did see him kind of has some issues with, which is a little bit surprising. But to me, man, he reminded me of like Chooks, just at like left tackle though. Like not Chooks when he was our left tackle, because Chooks at our left tackle was a little bit up and down, but Chooks at right tackle, we like him a lot. That's kind of the vibe I was getting when I was looking at Jalen. Like just how he moves, his frame gives me a lot of those vibes. So once again, when you're talking about potentially bringing something in to push Dan Moore, I look at a guy like that who, if I remember correctly, he was rated higher last season than he was this season. Kind of dropped down a little bit in terms of like falling out of the like the top tier dudes and stuff like that. But to me, he's still one of those dudes that I think you could get second, third, potentially, and come in here and push Dan Moore as well, man.
The Marvin Leal of the offensive tackles, maybe.
No, seriously, yeah.
Got the Maryland connection. You always got to consider.
Oh, man.
That's why we might be overlooking Deontay Banks a little bit in that cornerback room.
You're absolutely right. How did I forget the Maryland connection? I forgot all about the Maryland connection. You know, we should probably be talking about Jalen Duncan a lot more, man. He does have a Maryland connect. I bet Coach T was at his pro day. I bet he was there. But no, those two dudes in terms of the tackles, man, I liked some of the centers that they had up here. Just like I said, man, we were talking. This is obviously before we brought in the two dudes that we brought in. So we're not going to worry about, like I said, the guards per se. But in terms of center options, man, just as pieces to either come in here and compete with Mason or give him a little bit of depth options, man. Joe Tippmann out of Wisconsin, I liked him a lot. Really good size, really fundamentally sound too. When you talk Tippmann, definitely is a center, but I think he has guard potential as well. So when you talk about that versatility, getting one guy that could play three spots, essentially, that is Joe. Anytime he's getting contact too, man, he's one of those dudes that he keeps his feet moving and wins the grass in the run game. Angles versus the bull rush, do all the little things that you want. I think that the knock to me when I was watching him, I just think that he's just an average athlete though. Like, you know, we have, like, you seen your Marquise Pouncey's. You know, you've seen Tyler Linderbaum. Certain dudes where it's like, yo, this dude moves really well, and he has the strength to go with it. For Joe, I think he moves decent. I just don't think he's one of those elite tier athletes out there, but definitely a good player. And the dude that I also liked a lot, man, in that interior part was Ricky Stromberg out of Arkansas, man. The little center out there. Athletic as well, man. With him, another one of those dudes, man, could play guard, could play center. Flexibility with that, man. Really good technique. Love his active hands, too, man. In terms of just quality dudes, middle round element of it, man, to just keep where we going with this thing, man. Building up these trenches, man. Those are some of them dudes, man, that I think from the guys that we met with at the combine, O-line wise, to just keep an eye on, man, to potentially be, you know, looking out.
Yeah, I think Stromberg's a dude you take late, hopefully, yeah, probably like 7th round or something like that. Yeah. And he's your new J.C. Hassenauer. Probably not your franchise center, just the guy to keep around though. But Tippmann could be a dude that you keep behind Mason Cole if you were to draft him. I mean, it's tough because I don't really want to be drafting center early, and he might go in like the 2nd or 3rd round. Yeah. But you'd have him sitting behind Mason Cole for this year. Yeah. And once Cole's contract runs out, maybe you have Tippmann take over. Yeah. So you don't have to like overpay for Cole or anything to come back. Yeah.
Mason, this is to be the last year of his, man. But yeah, to me, man, Stromberg from Arkansas, I like him. Tippmann, I definitely like more. But those are the type of options, though. It's like, one, you can get a little bit earlier, still not 1st round. Maybe it goes to the 3rd, maybe. But at least you have that type of option. Or like we talked about with Ricky as well, man.
So what's interesting to me, because we're doing some of these more, or yeah, it's just naturally because these pro days are popping up. Yeah. And we're doing more of our meetings there and sending guys out. So we sent our main guys, I think it was yesterday, to Ohio State. Yeah. And they got two, you know, DeJuan Jones and then Paris Johnson Jr. And then we went down to Georgia with our main guys, Broderick Jones, and you talk about Jalen Carter and everything. But if we're just focused on offensive line.
Even Keely Ringo's down there. Stuff
sure,
like that
right,
too,
right, sure. The one thing I'm interested in, and this was brought up whenever we were talking about Jordan Addison, how our main guys aren't out at USC for his pro day. We didn't have our main guys at Northwestern for Skoronski. We had Pat Meyer. Is it a sign?
You said we didn't have the main guys, but we had the coach.
The O-line coach.
Isn't he the main guy?
No, but I'm talking like Tomlin Khan.
Oh,
Because that's what
I guess
people are
in that
talking about.
sense.
People are
Gotcha.
connecting like, hey, it's a good sign for us to draft him if they're
Yeah,
actually
if they're
at the
there.
pro day
Yeah.
spots.
Because they want to see him. They
Plus
want to get eyes
actually
on him.
meeting them at the
Yeah.
combine and
But
stuff.
Skoronski was a combine guy. This
Formal meeting with him.
Yeah.
Correct.
Skoronski was a combine guy, and Skoronski worked out at the combine too, if I remember right. Did drill work. I don't know if he did the testing, but he definitely did the drill work stuff. I don't know.
That would just be a little disheartening if we're out on Skoronski, in my opinion.
See, I don't think we're out. You said Meyer there.
Or do they think, like with Pickett last year, remember they're like, hey, we don't even think he's going to drop to us.
Yeah.
Maybe they're
That
thinking the
could
same
also
thing
be
with
the case.
Skoronski.
Yeah.
And they're not too intrigued in trading up right now.
Yeah. But at least you know if my old line coach is the one getting eyes on him, he has to have a certain level of confidence, certain level of comfort, and a certain level of say so. Now, he doesn't get to choose who he's picking, but I've talked to them dudes. They make their wish list in their order, and then the scouts have their order, the GM has their order, and then they kind of compare and contrast. So, Pat, I mean, I trust his judgment. Yeah.
And this is the first year of the Omar Khan era.
Yes.
He could do things a little differently than Kevin Colbert, even if he's going to keep a basic structure. Because he's talked about that. He's like, with Colbert, learning under him, he's one of the greatest GMs of all time.
Facts.
I'm obviously going to take some things that he's done and hold him to heart. But I also am going to do some things my own way. So maybe this is one of the things with Omar Khan. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be him and Tomlin at one of these pro day spots for us to draft the guy.
No, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt. It's going to be interesting, though. It is going to be interesting.